Hi, Simon. It's great to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
It's really wonderful to have you. So Simon Brown, he is the Chief Learning Officer of Novartis, and he is also the author of the Curious Advantage, a book that talks a little bit about the curiosity and the advantage that curiosity brings to the workplace. So thank you so much for coming and talk today about the future of learning with us, Simon.
Pleasure.
So Simon, maybe one of the first questions that I'd like to share with you, and it's in your opinion, our field is moving dramatically, and it's moving really fast. I would like to know, as a thought leader in the field, what sort of main trends, or sort of like the three main trends that you see in the learning space today?
Yeah, so I think there's one around, and it's not necessarily a new trend, but the value that people put on learning. So lots of research around when people are choosing a company to work for, or whether they choose to stay with the company that they're working for. Learning is either the top or one of the top things. So I think that attraction, retention of best talent is a key trend. I think the changing pace of skills is another piece. So the need for new skills, and there's various data points around a third of people having learnt a new to world skill in the last 3 years, 20% of the skills we have today being irrelevant in 3 years. All of these things lead to actually we need to be constantly reskilling ourselves. So as a company, you need to have people who are learning the latest skills so that we can be innovative and competitive, etc. So I think that would be another one. I think one of the other trends that we're seeing is around the use of data. And the last couple of years, I've really seen the use of data within learning being able to be much more valuable to understand what's going on, the impact that we're having or the impact that we're not having, depending on what the data actually tells. So I think those would be three. Could also talk about AI and various other pieces, but narrowing it down to three, that would be the first three probably that come to mind.
Thank you for sharing that. And maybe now, well, I got so value, the upskilling part, and also data. Can you tell us a little bit of what is sort of examples you're seeing around in your organization and other organizations that you were discussing with? What are you learning from them? What sort of concrete examples they are doing in those areas that you found particularly innovative?
Yeah, so maybe bring at least two of those together. So if we look at one of our strategic priorities within Novartis, so around data and digital, so it's going to be key to our success in the future. It's and you know, across so many industries as well, not just limited to the pharmaceutical industry. So we were looking at how do we build that capability, and do we have the right solutions? Over the last couple of years, we've put in place various different programs to build data and digital capability, whether it's data science, whether it's digital awareness, whether it's digital for leaders, etc. And then that's working to build people's skills, change people's mindset around digital. Bringing in then how data is playing a part as a trend, what we've been able to do is then take certain skills. So if we take something like data visualization, which is key behind data science, to be able to take what your insights you're finding and share those in a visual way. What the data we have is being able to tell us is if we go back 18 months, actually our data visualization was behind industry standards. We didn't have the number of people with the skills or the level of the skills, but the data has actually then showed us over the course of the last 12, 18 months, actually we've seen our data visualization skill set increasing to the point so towards the end of last year we were on a par with an industry benchmark, and actually we then moved ahead to be ahead of the industry benchmark. So that's where I guess the strategic link of skills to the business strategy, coupled with then data to actually measure where you are and how you progress, gives some really valuable insights then to be able to go back to the business and say, okay, here's something that's really important to our strategy. This is where we are. This is where we were. You know, here's positive improvement. You know, loads more we need to do, etc. But at least you know, we can quantify that in a way that a few years ago do.
Yeah, and data, I think it's key. But one of the things that I'm seeing, and I wanted to get your perspective on that, is that everyone talks about data, but when it comes to concretely use that and predict things through data, it's that, you know, we still have a lot to do. What are your thoughts on that? How we really can use data and leverage data to a better learning experience?
Yeah, I think there's still a huge amount we can do, and also, you know, as we get better at capturing data, as we get more sophisticated in our understanding of data. But I do already, I mean, we've probably been on the data journey in learning for maybe 12 to 18 months. We created a people and organization analytics team, and they've been doing a great job of helping us get data in order. And then we've got a dashboard now where we can go in and start to cut our learning hours data by division, by country, by grade, etc., and really understand what's going on. And every month or so, there's new features that team brings. So even today, in one of my meetings, we were having a conversation around learning hours, how that's been proceeding over the course of the year. But then through these the dashboards with the data, we're able to then dive in, and we're able to see voluntary learning hours versus mandated learning hours. So the voluntary learning hours arguably links to our curiosity piece as part of our culture, because that's people choosing to learn about something they're curious about. And we've been able to see an increase since May in that voluntary learning hours, which indicates, you know, people are being more curious, spending more time on learning. So that sort of insight, without the data, we just wouldn't know. We would have a few anecdotes of, you know, I heard this, I heard that, but actually we can now see concrete data, what that looks like, and understand the movements that are happening, and we can then adjust our behaviors based upon that, of dialing things up, dialing things down, etc. So I think that's a really concrete piece where the data is helping to inform us to then be able to change our behaviors accordingly.
Absolutely, and that makes perfect sense. And I have to say, I heard you talking about curiosity and you know, personal development. I think, and you are as an expert in curiosity. You just, you know, published this book on curiosity advantage, curious advantage, and so I'm really curious about what exactly you in terms of philosophy for learning. Do you believe that we have to focus on developing curiosity so people are actors of their own learning, or should we keep more making sure that we know what our employees are doing in terms of training, what sort of skills they are, a more sort of top-down, directed, oriented learning experience? What are your reactions on that?
Yeah, so I see it's both, and I think the fact that it's both is different to personally how I was thinking a few years ago. That so a few years the role of a corporate learning function to be there to primarily drive the skills that the business needs, and that is a key role of a corporate learning function. But the change in my own thinking, which has come about from the discussions that we've had within the organisation, has been actually that's just one of the roles, and actually the second role is that if people are attracted to an organisation based upon its learning and stay with an organisation based upon its learning, that learning doesn't have to be directly related to the skills that they need today. It may relate to something they're curious about and want to learn more broadly. It may be a future role that they're interested in getting to and they want to build the skills for that. It doesn't directly relate to today, but it relates to their career within the organization. And also, it may be that actually learning something even completely different to the role they're doing, there may well be things they can transfer from that back into their day-to-day role. There's a book by David range around the sort of the power of having a broad generalist view of things and being able to bring that in. And actually, if we're providing learning in completely different areas, you know, there's still value for the organization, because it may spark a thought that you can then bring back and apply. And not to mention, it's getting you into the habit of learning, so it may make you more likely to actually be learning the skills related things. So I think there's a bit of both, absolutely building the skills needed for the role, but also I think encouraging broader curiosity to be learning in general, because you know, there's a lot of value for the individual. And we even changed our HR functions name to people and organization, with a view that now it's not just about the organization, it's actually about what we do for our people as well. And actually we've got those two stakeholders.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for sharing that, Simon. Let me come back again to value, skills, and data, upskilling and data, those three main elements that you identify as in the future of learning. What sort of organizational design you believe we need to have in place to make sure that we are addressing those three topics and creating a sort of more learning organization?
Yeah, so I guess maybe picking on the second one first. So the skills that the organization needs to deliver against the strategy. So that's it sounds a lot easier than it is in practice, I think, to understand what are the critical skills that are going to make the organization successful in the future. And from an organization design perspective, one of the things that we've changed recently is we've moved our divisional learning heads into our strategy teams. So rather than sitting in people in organization or HR, that they're sitting in those strategy teams. And the logic for that being to be able to understand the strategy within that division, as well as in the context of the wider organization strategy, looking 3 years out, where's the business going to be, what are the capabilities that we need, and then what are the skills that we need within people at those areas, and then making sure we're starting to cultivate those skills at an early point, so that when we get there, we've got those skills. So that's I guess an organization design change of moving the teams to report into strategy in order to be able to understand and drive then that future skills that are needed. So that would be one change. I think from the value piece of people putting value over their learning, and also in the context of what I was saying, that broader curiosity learning.
Mhm.
So within our teams, we have an enterprise capability team, and one of the things that they do is support our Curiosity Month, which is coming up in September, and that's really promoting all of the great learning offerings that we have across the company, and with a whole communication campaign, 170 webinars of internal and external experts, etc. That's really promoting curiosity and learning in order to meet that need of people value learning within the company, will look to join a company that offers great learning, and will stay with the company if there's the great access to learning. And in that, we promote access to many of the catalogues of learning that we have, etc. So that's again an organization design of there's a team there that is focused on that enterprise capability piece, and they have the responsibility. And then I mentioned earlier this people in organization analytics team, so they're getting deep into the data as well, and making sure that we've got the expertise there around data, but not just in learning. They go broader into some of our wider HR data, and even into the sort of business data and things as well. So there it was a conscious decision not have it just in learning, but also to be able to have it more broadly across the HR field.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So what I heard is that really making sure that you have a role in a strategic role, so you can see where the strategy is going and you can anticipate the upskilling part, making sure that you are creating that environment of curiosity or interest for learning, a growth mindset sort of thing that can allow people to engage with the learning, and also make sure that you have the data that is supporting all that. That would be your thanks on that.
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much, Simon. That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming. We are running out of time.
Sure.
It was great to have you here today to talk about the future of learning. We really do appreciate your help on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Take care.